Adamic here. Now, this past weekend, Swiss Army Man came out. This is a bizarre movie. Paul Dano is stranded on a deserted island. He's about to commit suicide, and Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter, washes up on shore. Paul Dano runs over, checks him out. Unfortunately, he's dead. Paul was hoping that Daniel would be alive and he'd have a new friend and they'd figure out how to get off the island together. But turns out it doesn't matter that he's dead because the corpse has magic powers. Like if you put rocks in his mouth and squeeze them, he can shoot them out like a gun. Or you can use his arms to chop wood. He's a Swiss Army man, like a Swiss Army knife. He can do a bunch of useful things. And even though he's dead, he can also talk. It's a ridiculous, crazy movie, and it's actually pretty funny. It was written and directed by the Daniels, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert. They've both done a bunch of music videos and commercials together. This is the first movie they've done. I had a chance to talk to them. Obviously, the first question, how and why do you come up with a film about a magical corpse?
Different production companies and producers who are asking us what kind of movies we wanted to make, and a lot of times they would hope that we would make something that was a little bit more conventional. They'd be like, what do you think about doing this rom-com, or how about this family drama? Would you guys ever want to make this? And I think because it felt so disingenuous for us to say yes to any of those things. It didn't feel like it was us. We started coming up with these stories that were half jokes, but also half actual things that we wish we could see. And we would start pitching these ideas at meetings. And so this was one of the ideas we started to pitch to real-life movie producers who were asking what kind of movies we wanted to make. And
now those movie producers are like dumbfounded that we actually made it, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what happened was we kept pitching it so often that eventually one producer said, that sounds amazing, you have to make it. And we were just like, what? And so he kind of sat us down and forced us to write the first draft. And yeah, somehow people are drawn to it because of its strangeness.
I've never seen anything like it. It's just bizarre. I mean, you've got Paul Dano riding Harry Potter around like a jet ski.
Yeah, we've been trying to figure out comparisons. Paul Dano's friend said it was like Tree of Life meets Dumb and Dumber, and we were really flattered by that description.
So I was kind of thinking like E.T. meets Weekend at Bernie's, or like watching a little kid play with toys and making up new abilities for their action figures.
Yeah. That's about right.
I've never seen Weekend at Bernie's, but...
Dead body.
There's a dead guy in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know that much.
In this movie, how much of the corpse is actually Daniel Radcliffe, and how much is actually like a dummy?
It's mostly Daniel Radcliffe. We had the dummies there to do some of the stunts and to ease Paul Dano's back when he had to carry it in wide shots. But Daniel Radcliffe really insisted on playing Manny every chance he could, even when it meant laying in the freezing cold water on his birthday. He was like, I need to be Manny, he really wanted that authenticity, which we're so grateful, because I think that's a pretty rewarding part of the meta narrative, is that you can tell it's a real guy right there. He's a lot more endearing than his latex counterpart.
When you first meet the corpse Manny, he's kind of naive and doesn't really get anything, and then he kind of grows up through the movie. What was the point of that?
Very much so. It's kind of inspired by movies like E.T. or WALL-E, or movies where a character has a limited vocabulary but a huge heart. That was what we wanted Manny to be like. We found it was really fun to see the world through his eyes. Those kinds of movies, they blew my mind when I was a kid, but the older you get, the more jaded you get. And so we found if we could make that kind of movie but for adults and shake grown-ups out of their comfort zone and make them feel young again and look at the world a little fresh, how fun would that be?
And we did that with A Farting Corpse.
Yeah. We kind of joked that this movie is an adaptation of the book Everyone Poops, but for adults, because adults need to be reminded that everyone poops as well.
Everyone poops, everyone dies, everyone does some shitty things, and that's kind of what this movie's about.
Is there any kind of official count in the movie, how many farts are actually in this thing?
We should probably figure that out. I have no idea.
I will say for your listeners, maybe less than you'd think. We knew that people would have a certain a low tolerance for how many farts could be in a movie, and so pretty early on in the film, Hank, our main character, he does not think farts are funny. They really upset him, and he quirks up the butt, and you don't hear farts for a good hour.
Now, you guys mentioned you didn't think people would be able to handle that, and I believe it was Sundance. Some people did actually walk out of the movie. Were you guys expecting that? I mean, how'd you react to hearing people walked out of this thing?
We reacted fine because most people stuck around and then had wonderful things to say afterwards, and we had really fun, interesting conversations. So
it was just one of those things that the internet kind of blew out of proportion. Like, we didn't realize anything was wrong until the next morning when we saw the headlines, and we were like, oh, that's interesting. That was such a different experience from what we had. The theater seats like 1,400 people, and maybe 20 of them left. So that's like less than 1% of the audience left, and everyone else that stuck around just had a really great time, and we got a really interesting spectrum of reactions.
I think we kind of wanted to prank Sundance because when the few times that I've walked into a movie blind and it surprised me, it's like those are my favorite theatrical experiences. So we wanted to give that to a couple folks. So if folks are listening and they haven't seen the trailer, maybe don't.
Just go watch the movie and have a strange experience, something new.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's basically just kind of a couple of the uptight pricks that walked out of the movie, and everybody else enjoyed it.
Yeah, or some parents who brought their kids because they like Harry Potter. I don't blame them.
Yeah, we don't blame anyone who left. It was just one. There was just one guy who.
Yeah, there's one guy we blame who was like a journalist because he left and then wrote a bunch about it, and we're like, well, you didn't see it.
He actually didn't finish the movie and went on to just insult us because there were people defending the film on Twitter, and he was getting mad about it. So
the movie's sort of about that, though, like how society views things that it deems weird. So in some ways, even that was kind of like validating. We were like, that proves our point.
Yeah, the reaction kind of lived out the themes of our film and kind of amplified what we were trying to explore in the movie. So it was kind of strangely beautiful.
Seeing it with a bunch of critics, I could see a couple of guys were kind of uptight about it, and I was laughing my ass off, and I'm sitting there going, I'm probably irritating the guy in front of me. I don't care. I'm having a good time with this.
There you go. Fart proudly.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you guys explored a lot of the stuff kind of that society deems as being weird. And really, when we first meet the main character, Paul Dano, Hank, he's about to kill himself, finds a corpse, and really kind of figures himself out and regains the will to live with the help of a dead body.
Yeah.
There's clearly some irony there. Was that part of the goal from the beginning, or was it just, how do we make a movie with a dead body?
I think that we were attracted to the story because there were some central existential ideas there that were fun to talk about. We've been describing it to folks as in this story, a suicidal man has to convince a dead body that life is worth living, and all the contradictions in that sentence kind of sum up the kind of weird stew of the movie itself, which is kind of like.
Yeah, we love that cognitive dissonance. We love it when people are slightly confused because it means that their brains are working, and that's the fun of this premise, is it is filled with contradictions.
That kind of brings me to another thing, is basically the whole movie. Yeah, I'm laughing, I'm enjoying it, but the whole movie, I'm trying to kind of figure it out because, I've seen some of these movies that there's some kind of twist. So I'm going, okay, is this a hallucination? Did Hank actually kill himself? And this is what flashed, in his head right that final second before he died. Was he a serial killer? Is it going to take a dark twist? You guys didn't really do any of that. Why?
We were very attracted to that tension, and there were drafts where we wrote twists, but I think ultimately we found twists were less rewarding than just a widening lens of this character in this situation. The tension of trying to figure something out, like Dan was saying, that means your brain's turned on, and we were like, let's keep people's brains turned on for as long as possible. And for us making the movie, we were kind of interested in our own story for 4 years, and it kind of evolved and changed and grew on us, and we learned things. And we hope the movie has a shorter but similar effect on audiences. We've been joking hopefully this corpse can teach you something too.
The ending almost kind of reminded me of one of those Christmas movies where the end, you see the old guy and everybody's going, well, he's not really Santa, and then they turn around, he disappears, and where did he and the sleigh go? And then you look in the sky and there's a little twinkle.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Spoiler alert, but yeah.
Those movies are great because what they do for kids is they keep Santa Claus or whatever the character or the story is in this this quantum place where it can be both real and not real, and it's up to the person to decide. And it's like a nice gift to give to kids who, you know, really want to believe in this thing. I think this film allows for both interpretations in a really interesting way. Ideally, people leave with a little bit of hope by the end, no matter what happens. There's still a little bit of a light at the end of this movie, despite the fact it gets pretty dark by the end.
Yeah, it starts off kind of dark, gets really goofy and fun, and then, you know, towards the end there, I'm going, oh, this is going to get ugly. And then it kind of gets all happy and uplifting again. Is there like an official, I mean, I know you said it's kind of open for interpretation, but is there some kind of explanation for what is going on with the body, like with the powers and everything?
Yeah, we know it, but we're not going to tell you. We know what we wanted people to feel. We made up a backstory, but I think there was like a Kubrick quote or something where he was like, movies should be a collection of images and feelings, and I don't entirely agree. I think movies should have a story with beginning, middle, and end as well, like, or at least that's the kind we made, but, you know, a little dollop of ambiguity is really healthy. You know, it means people are thinking. Now, because of that ambiguity, you guys aren't looking at a sequel or anything, are you? Oh, yeah, we have a couple ideas. There's one where it's called Swiss Army Man 2, Big Manny and Japani, and it's about Dan Radcliffe, like, traveling around Japan, meeting a bunch of, like, fangirls, and then, like a kaiju monster shows up and he has to fight it, so.
And then the third one of the trilogy is Swiss Army. It's a whole army of dead people coming back to life to help save the world from aliens. So there's that one. Yeah. We're going to start and they're all played by child actors. Yeah. So it's going to be like Haley Joel Osment. Yeah. The girl who plays MATILDA. Yeah. It's going to be great. That girl from Veep. Yeah, we're going to have a whole cinematic universe of dead farting corpses.
Can you get Bruce Campbell in there and do like a crossover with Army of Darkness, Evil Dead?
Oh man, yeah, for sure. Deal.
That's the Daniels, the writers and directors of the new Daniel Radcliffe movie, Swiss Army Man. It is in theaters now. It is very bizarre and funny. ADAMICradio.com